An iPhone 8 with a USB Type-C connector would probably be one of the best things to ever happen to the tech industry, and there's quite a number of reasons for that. So hey everyone, welcome to the Zone of Tech, I'm Daniel, and welcome to my Leaks and Rumors series on the iPhone 8, and in this episode, I want to cover everything you need to know about the possibility of the iPhone 8 having a USB Type-C connector. So last week, we actually had a ton of sources, a ton of rumors and leaks regarding just this, an iPhone 8 with a USB Type-C connector. So here's everything you need to know about that. Is the iPhone 8 going to have a USB Type-C connector or not? And if it is going to have a USB Type-C connector, count the number of times I've said USB Type-C. But yeah, if it is going to have one, is it going to be a good or a bad thing? So yeah, enjoy. Okay, so some of you might remember that old 30-pin connector that we used to have on so many iPhones up until the iPhone 5, on so many iPads up until the iPad 4, and on pretty much every single iPod except the latest iPod Touch 5th generation and 6th generation, and the latest generation of iPod Nano. So yeah, the 30-pin dock connector, a 30-pin connector was Apple's most influential connector, so to say. Then finally, with the iPhone 5 back in 2012, Apple has switched to the Lightning connector, which is the connector that Apple is still using today. And they switched to the Lightning connector mainly because of three reasons. The first one was that the Lightning port, the Lightning connector was finally reversible. The second one was that it was so much smaller than the 30-pin connector. And this meant that Apple actually had more room inside the iPhone, which is always a very good thing to have in these small and tightly packed devices. And the number three, the Lightning connector was so much more capable than the 30-pin connector. So it could support HDMI, VGA, DVI, it could also support SD cards, USB, and more. So yeah, overall the Lightning connector is so much better than the 30-pin connector. Then with the introduction of the new 12-inch MacBook back in 2015, Apple was actually one of the first manufacturers to include USB Type-C or USB-C in the laptop. That was actually the only port that this device had. And yeah, just to clarify, USB-C is just the connector. So USB-C is just the shape of the connector, like USB-A or USB-B was. And then you can have different standards for this type of connector. Now, same as with the Lightning connector, USB Type-C is also reversible, which is always a pretty good thing. But the best part about USB Type-C is that it supports so many standards. So it supports USB, everything from USB 2.0 up to USB 3.1 Gen 2, and also even Thunderbolt 3 and even Thunderbolt 2. Then it also supports power delivery up to 100 watts. So you can even charge a laptop, and even if you have like an external battery, you can also charge a small device like a small 12-inch laptop or 13-inch laptop. And when it comes to video standards, it supports HDMI, DVI, VGA, DisplayPort 1.2, DisplayPort 1.3 in the future, and HDMI 1.4 and 2.0 and 2.1 in the future. So this is overall the god of all ports. Now, after the 12-inch MacBook was introduced in 2015, last year in 2016, in November, we've seen some new MacBooks. So the new MacBook Pros, the new 13-inch MacBook Pros, and the 15-inch MacBook Pros, all of them came with USB Type-Cs. And yeah, just the USB Type-Cs. And fortunately, all of them supported Thunderbolt 3 and also USB 3.1 Gen 2, which weren't supported on the 12-inch MacBook. So yeah, we did get some pretty major improvements when it comes to USB Type-C on the new MacBook Pros. And then also the new iMacs, which are coming out in 2017, they will also support USB Type-C. And then the new Mac Minis whenever they come out, and also the new Mac Pros in, I don't know, 2050 or 70 or whenever they're going to be released. Hopefully we'll have some sort of an update by 2050. Keep your fingers crossed. And then even besides Apple, everyone is basically moving towards USB Type-C. So LG, the LG G5 had USB Type-C, the LG G6 also has USB Type-C, Samsung with the Note 7, the Samsung Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, everything, yeah, even the Google Pixel, everyone basically is moving towards USB Type-C. So yeah, micro USB is pretty much dead, and USB Type-A will soon to be dead in the next few years. So now when it comes to Apple, all of their newly released MacBooks, they all have USB Type-C ports, all the new iMacs will have USB-C ports, and yeah, pretty much every device except for the iPhones and the iPads. So what's going to happen with the iPhone 8 and the new iPads? Are they going to have USB Type-C or not, and why? Well, the iPhone 7 back in 2016 was actually the perfect moment for Apple to switch to USB Type-C, but unfortunately that never happened. Now we are expecting some new iPads in 2017, some pretty major updates when it comes to the iPad lineup, However, there are no reports suggesting that they will actually come with a USB Type-C connector. And when it comes to the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 will most likely still come with a Lightning port. Now, regarding this, we actually had quite a lot of reports last week just about this, the iPhone 8 and a USB Type-C connector. So Wall Street Journal, the ones that actually had that pretty massive PewDiePie scandal, if you've read about that. So Wall Street Journal reported that they had some inside sources pointing towards an iPhone 8 with a USB Type-C connector instead of a Lightning port, which was some really, really awesome news. And by the way, Wall Street Journal, they actually had a pretty credible track record when it comes to Apple leaks. However, some other really credible sources when it comes to Apple leaks like KGI and Mako Takara, they denied all of these claims. So they said that the iPhone 8 will still come with a Lightning connector and that Apple will not switch to USB Type-C anytime soon. Okay, so why is this such a big deal? Why would you care? Well, it's because USB Type-C is the future and everyone sees this, including Apple. They also see this. Reason why all of their new MacBooks only have USB Type-C ports. Now, when it comes to the iPads and the iPhones, it's a little bit more complicated, and that's because Apple owns Lightning. So Apple developed the Lightning connector, whereas USB Type-C wasn't developed by them. So Apple doesn't own USB-C, but they do own Lightning. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, when someone like, let's say, Belkin develops a Lightning cable or any sort of Lightning accessory, whether it's a speaker or Lightning headphones or pretty much anything, power adapter, battery chargers, if it has a Lightning connector, then that company actually has to pay Apple a fee for each product they sell. So yeah, Apple's making a ton of money for each Lightning device that's not developed by themselves. So Apple's most likely making a few hundred millions each year, or even a few billions each year, just by having that Lightning port in their iPhones and the iPads. So that the inclusion of a Lightning port is actually making Apple a ton of money. So yeah, switching to USB Type-C on the iPhones and the iPads would kill all of that revenue. Now on the MacBooks, that wasn't that big of an issue because the MacBooks, they didn't have a Lightning connector and they only had one proprietary port, which was the MagSafe connector. And there were some MagSafe accessories, third-party accessories, but not a lot of them. So in the end, Apple didn't lose that much money by killing the MagSafe connector. But yeah, on the iPhones and the iPads, Apple will lose a ton of money just by switching to USB Type-C. So yeah, this is why I do not believe that Apple will switch to USB Type-C anytime soon, even though this would be an amazing thing because this will basically make all the manufacturers switch to USB Type-C as well. I mean, at the moment, it's kind of ridiculous when you want to connect your latest generation iPhone, the iPhone 7, to your latest generation MacBook, the new MacBook Pros, and both were released in 2016. And yeah, you cannot actually connect the iPhone to the MacBook without needing an adapter. I mean, you could essentially buy a Lightning to USB Type-C cable, but still, Apple's always been praised for their simplicity and uniformity when it comes to designing products. Requiring an adapter to connect your newest generation iOS devices to your newest generation MacBooks is just weird. But unfortunately, ever since Steve Jobs died, Apple became more and more money-oriented, so they do care more about money, about making money, rather than making great products for the consumers. And I'll just give you a few examples. So in 2016, Apple released a new iPad, the iPad Pro 9.7 inch. And this is essentially the iPad Air 3, but it's not called the iPad Air 3, it's called the iPad Pro 9.7, just so that Apple can actually charge more for it. Then the new MacBook Pros, the new 2016 MacBook Pros are significantly more expensive than the last generation. So if you max out the 15-inch MacBook Pro, it can actually go above 4,000 pounds. Yeah, that's the price of a small car or the price of a used car, which is crazy. Not even to mention that the performance is not that great. And yeah, when it comes to the prices, Apple actually released 3 separate MacBook Pro models in 2016. A 13-inch MacBook Pro without a touch bar, and then 2 models, 13-inch and 15-inch, which are basically the new MacBook Pros overall. And they do come with that new touch bar. So the model without a touch bar, that's supposed to be the cheapest version, but even that is still more expensive than the last generation that we had in 2015. And then yeah, the touch bar 13-inch is more expensive than that, and then the 15-inch is up to 4,000 pounds, even more expensive than 4,000 pounds if you max it out. So yeah, again, crazy. Then don't forget the $10,000 golden Apple Watch. And not even to mention the Apple Watch bands that you can still buy today that cost over $400. So yeah, the prices for all the Apple Watch accessories and pretty much everything is just insane. The iPhone 8 is also said to cost more than $1,000, which again, the main changes would be the design change and the OLED display, among other changes. But yeah, those changes wouldn't justify that really huge price increase for the iPhone 8. And the Mac Pro hasn't been updated for almost 4 years now. The Mac Mini is dead. The iPods are pretty much dead. The iMacs haven't been updated for more than a year now. And then Apple has even killed their monitor business. So the Apple Thunderbolt display is now dead. They partnered with LG to introduce the ultrafine displays, which now replaced the Thunderbolt displays. They did this because their monitor business wasn't making enough money. Yeah, that's actually the reason why they closed the monitor business. And even to mention that their lineup is really confusing right now. You have 5 iPhones to choose from, you have 4 iPad models to choose from, and then you have a ton of MacBook models to choose from. So yeah, this wasn't the case in Steve's era, when we had 1 iPhone, 1 iPad, and then we had 3 MacBooks with the MacBook Air, MacBook, and the MacBook Pro. So having said all this, no, don't expect the iPhone 8 to come with a USB Type-C connector just yet. Now, if it does, then Apple would basically prove themselves wrong, that they don't care about money and that they actually care about customer satisfaction and about overall product design and ease of use. Now, on the other hand, what Apple will most likely do with the iPhone 8 is introduce USB Type-C power delivery. So what does this mean? What's USB Type-C power delivery? Well, in that case, they would introduce a new charger with a USB Type-C connector, and you would use a USB Type-C to a Lightning cable to charge your iPhone. Since the USB Type-C cable can actually support up to 100 watts of power delivery, with a tweaked charger, you would basically have faster charge on the iPhone 8. USB Type-C power delivery actually supports up to 5 amps of power delivery, up to 2.4, which is what the Lightning cable supports. And by the way, this already exists, so Apple's already using this in the 12.9 inches iPad Pro. So if you have a 12.9 inches iPad Pro, you can simply buy a separate charger, a USB Type-C charger, and then buy again a separate cable, USB Type-C to Lightning, and that way the iPad Pro 12.9 inches would actually charge much faster than with the included adapter. So yeah, pro tip if you have an iPad Pro 12.9 inches. Now, in case Apple doesn't include USB Type-C in the iPhone 8, I don't think Apple will be including it in 2018. I feel like 2018 is really late for jumping in this USB Type-C party. So in that case, Apple will most likely remove the charging port entirely. Again, this is weird, but yeah, this is very likely to happen because Apple does want to rely entirely on wireless charging. So this might be replace the port by either short-range wireless charging, which is induction-based, or long-range wireless charging, which is something that Apple is currently working on. Now, in case you want to know more about wireless charging, check out this video, 5 amazing things, and also this video. So these are 2 videos in which I covered wireless charging a bit more in depth. But yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about all this? USB Type-C or Lightning on the iPhone 8? Which one would you choose and why? So Lightning connector would be useful because all of your accessories would still work. However, a USB Type-C connector would be amazing because you could use the same cable to charge your iPhone, your Google Pixel, your S8, your laptop, your whatever device you have. You would be able to use the same cable and charge everything with that same USB Type-C cable. Because yeah, at the moment you need an adapter to connect the iPhone 7 to the new 2016 MacBook Pros. Feel free to subscribe if you have enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more Leaks and Rumors episodes like this one, and also if you want to see some episodes I did on the Samsung Galaxy S8, the Samsung Galaxy S8 is going to be pretty exciting as well. So pretty much the same design as the iPhone with some really thin bezels. Yeah, the iPhone 8 and the Samsung Galaxy S8 are this year's most exciting phones. So if you want to know more about the S8, check out my previous videos on my Leaks and Rumors episodes on the S8 as well. If you don't want to miss out on my next videos, then be sure to enable notifications on my channel by simply clicking on that bell icon. That way you will be notified as soon as I upload the brand new video. There's quite a lot of issues still with the YouTube subscription feed, so that way you'll get a notification whenever I upload a new epic video. But yeah, this is pretty much it for this video. Feel free to give it a like if you have enjoyed it, and also let me know in the comments if you're epic enough to make it until the end. But yeah, this was pretty much it, so thank you for watching this video. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Enough tech, signing out. Cheers.